Hello. It's 3 o'clock. It's Beholdle time. Disclaimer, anytime is Beholdle time. Beholdle, everyone's favourite 3.5e D&D monster guessing game. We're currently on a streak of one after a very close call yesterday. Me managing to guess it on my very last guess, seemingly just plucking it out of nowhere. Was very happy with myself. We're going to start with our huge water elemental, as always, my favourite opener. And then we're gonna sit in silence and contemplate the wonders of Dungeons and Dragons. No, we're gonna analyze the information that we've got, and we're gonna use logic to deduce what to guess next, until hopefully there is only one option remaining, which is the correct answer. It's not always so simple. There's about 4,000 monsters out there. Some of them are NPCs, and some of their criteria are very similar. So it's not always possible, to be honest. But that's the fun. That's where it becomes enjoyable. There's a little bit of luck once you've deduced all that you can deduce. So what can we deduce here? Let's have a look. We are neutral on the GE axis, but not on LC. So we're lawful or chaotic neutral. That can give us a bit of information straight off the bat. I would say already that leans me towards magical beast. It's very common to be lawful neutral, chaotic neutral, or neutral on the law chaos and good or evil on the other. They're usually neutral on one axis, is what I'm trying to say. However, the any environment pushes me away from that. Any makes me think this could be an NPC. Because magical beasts usually have some form of environment. The other clues we've got here are size is less than huge, CR is lower than 7, which points to an unnamed NPC, so a generic NPC. There are some named NPCs that have lower levels, but generally where an NPC is named, they are usually, a lot of the time, showing off the prestige classes, so they're often a sort of CR 8 to 12 is common, up to 15 is viable. And again, like, can quite easily be lawful or chaotic neutral quite a lot of the time. Humanoids spanning that full range. I'd be tempted, given the size and CR, I'd be tempted to lean towards an unnamed NPC as my next guess. And we'd probably go by job and just see what information we get. I mean, a classic one would be like a dwarven NPC, or any sort of like any sort of lieutenant would be interesting. Orc lieutenant, dwarf lieutenant, these are all good shit. I feel like we do that. Problem with the dwarf lieutenant is it's probably going to be good on the GE and may well be neutral on the LC. You often think of dwarves as being lawful, but a lot of the time the NPCs are not lawful. They're neutral good a lot of the time. I mean, the human rogue lieutenant could be a good shout here. Let's go for it. Really good info. Okay. Medium but not humanoid. No subtype. Lower than 6. Chaotic neutral. Material plane. Okay. So if we're not humanoid, could be a monstrous humanoid. Could still be a magical beast. Not impossible. Monstrous humanoids often have an environment, though, but again, if it's an NPC monstrous humanoid, like, for example, I mean, it was not going to be, but like a hobgoblin soldier, for example, although that would obviously be evil aligned, as was this human rogue. But there are some monstrous NPCs that aren't evil. Most of them are, though. I mean, what can we rule out? Because that's the other. Rather than figuring out what it can be, sometimes it helps to learn what it can't be. It's unlikely to be aberrations. Aberrations are usually evil and often live underground. It's not going to be an animal. Animals are generally neutral on both axes. Hello, Thunder. Dragon, not medium-sized, lower than CR4, no way. And they would generally have an environment. Elemental, we've ruled out. I mean, it could be a Fae. Chaotic neutral Fae? It's not a bad area to dip into. Could obviously rule out giant based on size. It's unlikely to be an ooze. Unlikely to be an outsider. Unlikely to be a plant. Unlikely to be undead, although not impossible if it's deathless. Unlikely to be vermin. I think my gut's pointing me towards Fae. So I feel like we have to guess a Fae just to test that hypothesis. Did you get today's one, Thunder? Or did you bail? I glanced at Discord. I noticed you tried to get Gemini to solve it. Yeah, I'll have a look at that after this. I'm looking forward to seeing how it handled it. I'd be interested to see if Claude can do it. Let me see. What's a good Fae that isn't in the MM1? Or is there like a Dryad Dryad Druid? Okay, not a Fae. Interesting. Interesting. So, I mean, Magical Beast is back on the table. Low CR, though. We need a Magical Beast that isn't in the MM1. Small, so like small and sort of not evil. So like, I'm thinking of something like a Winter Wolf, but I'm pretty sure that's the MM1. But something along those lines. Are the Crenshaw in the MM1? I feel like they are. But I feel like that's the most likely sort of style of magical beast that we're looking at. Some sort of magical dog. No, but we're CR2. This is interesting. We're CR2. CR2. Chaotic neutral, and we're not magical beast, we're not Fae, we're not humanoid. This is very interesting. God, if this is another Deathless, I'm gonna be fucking fuming. Do we have like okay. What type is this bastard? You know what it could be? Oh ho 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 ho! Oh ho 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 ho! Have we slipped into the correct territory here? Oh, you son of a bitch! Oh, we're gonna dance around Goliaths now, aren't we? Fuck. It's gotta be the hunter then, right? Hey, baby! Ooh! There we go. There we go. I was thinking, like, what's a monstrous humanoid that's not evil, but also isn't large? And, like, just Goliath slips straight into my brain because it's such a little oddity because you don't. They're not monstrous. I don't know why they're monstrous humanoids. They're just big, but they're also not big. They're medium-sized. They're so weird, right? They should just be a large humanoid, and yet they're a medium monstrous humanoid. There you go. I'm quite pleased how easily I dipped into that one, Thunder. 7 guesses. And to be honest, I was on the fucking money here with the Goliath Warrior. That was a really, really valiant effort, I think. Oh my god. There you go. It's that easy sometimes. That puts us back on 2. We're on track to match Orange's streak tomorrow. I'm excited. Okay, let's have a little dip into Discord and see what went on. Orange crashed out, unfortunately. How is Null not a monstrous humanoid? I mean, isn't that weird that Null's are humanoids, but Goliaths are monstrous humanoids? It is weird. I absolutely agree. It doesn't make any sense. But interesting the path that they went there. I guess they just didn't really know what the Goliath was. So Thunder let Gemini play Beholder today. Okay. Gets the creature's stats more often than he gets them right. So Gemini's guesses. I guess that you fed it the Shadow Dragon to start with then. Because there's no way Gemini just went for the Shadow Dragon as its opening guess. It guessed a gnome, which is a very interesting guess when you've already got a yellow on any underground. From there on, it was ChatGPT. Was it ChatGPT or Gemini? Make your mind up. Because that's 2 different things. It was Gemini. Okay. From there, even though it knew there was no subtype, it guessed a lizard folk. Terrible play. Terrible play. It also knew we weren't small, and it guessed a small lizard folk variant, which is wild. LLMs cannot be trusted. True. They literally can't. But then neither can people. This is the thing people forget. They're all quick to point out, oh, LLMs are incompetent, they just bullshit you. It's like, yeah, but so do people, my dude. Well, welcome to life. It then chose a quasi-demon, which is probably the worst pick I've ever seen, given that it already knew it was bigger than small, it already knew it had no subtype, it already knew it wasn't evil, and it already knew it's on the material plane. That was fucking terrible. Red Cap, terrible because it already knew it wasn't small, but that could just be testing for Faye, so fine. And again, knew it wasn't evil. Then it went into Death Dog. Death Dog's a good shout, actually. It is evil, so it wasn't a great pick. But in terms of testing, it gave good info. Then it went for an Abale, which is, honestly, good guess. Not terrible. Already knew it was chaotic, not lawful, though, so an AI should know better. Bright Green, I mean, good enough guess. There's no way it could have necessarily known that we'd given it the Sonic subtype. That was actually a pretty good guess. However, it had already ruled out deserts, so it's not going to be Thri-Kreen, is it? It then gets to Fairlock, another reptilian, after it had already ruled out reptilian. And then it gets Goliath Warrior, which was actually a pretty good guess. So it got there eventually, which is, pretty much how AI works. Around this point, you explained the colours to it. Oh wow! So you weren't telling it like what the colours even were. It got stuck on neutral evil. LMs have entire corporations and trained huge data staffs, making them much more proficient at lying. I mean, it's not that they're not trying to lie. The goal is to get AI that doesn't lie at all, but you have to consider that the truth is difficult to nail down, right? It's like sometimes you have to lie. Like if you take a simple question and try and determine whether or not it's true, you'll find that the chances are it's both true and false based on context. And sometimes, like, the answers that make sense aren't necessarily the right answers. So a good example of this is, imagine you ask your chatbot, "Are dinosaurs extinct?" Right? Now, if you ask the random guy on the street, if you went up and said, "Are dinosaurs extinct?" they're going to turn around and go, "Yeah." I mean, that's false. They're not. But they're going to say they are because they're thinking about dinosaurs, right? But dinosaurs aren't extinct. Dinosaurs still exist. They're called birds. Okay? So already you've got like two truth states there. You've got no, but also yes, depending on what you're referring to and what. Chances are, if you're Googling this question, you're looking for the answer yes. You're looking for the answer, no, dinosaurs haven't got extinct, they're birds, because you're confused, you've heard that they might still be around, blah, 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 blah. So there's context to consider. That question gets even more complicated when you ask something like, is Santa Claus real? Right? Is Santa Claus real? Well, the obvious answer is no, Santa Claus isn't real, right? But this depends who's asking. If a child asks you on the street, is Santa Claus real? You're going to say yes, unless you're an asshole, right? So you've got a yes and a no truth state. You've also got another truth state, because Santa Claus was a real person at one point. It's based on the story of St. Nicholas. So now, for something that is objectively false, you have two yes truth states and a false truth state. Right? You've then got another yes truth state, because Santa Claus is also real as a concept. If I say Santa Claus to you, you know what that is as a fictional concept. It's a, guy with a red suit who laughs a lot. It says, ho, 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 delivers gifts. It's not something I've made up. Is Santa Claus real is a yes statement compared to, is Zorpla real? Because I just made Zorpla up and Zorpla is not real. So you've now got three yes truth states for a statement that is objectively false. And this is why AI lies, in a nutshell. Because the truth is not that easy. The truth is very complicated and is in a state of flux. Birds are monstrous humanoids. I mean, birds are animals. Why are gnolls not? I don't know why gnolls are not monstrous humanoids. That annoys me as well, especially because Goliaths are, which I find very strange. Goliaths should be large humanoids. change my mind. Because they are just humanoids. There's nothing monstrous about them other than they're large, and yet they're medium. I hate it. And gnolls, I mean, the thing is, like, reptilians are also humanoids, right? Lizard folk are also humanoids. So the whole point of the monstrous humanoid is that its anatomy is beyond just humanoid, at least in theory. So, like, the Athak is a monstrous humanoid because it has a third arm, right? And I'm like, great, I get that. That's fantastic. Trolls are monstrous humanoids because they regenerate, okay? So stuff like that kind of, like, makes sense, but then somewhere along the lines, this shit gets blurred. And it just kind of doesn't make sense anymore. Goliath means exactly one thing to you, and it's nothing to do with D&D. I mean, hello, are you not familiar with Grog Strongjaw? But yeah, it is definitely weird that gnolls are considered to just be regular humanoids. They feel like the least of the valid monstrous humanoids, right? Because the whole point is so from the SRD, a humanoid usually has 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, and a human-like torso, arms, and head, right? They have few to no supernatural or extraordinary abilities, but most can speak and have well-developed societies. I mean, that describes a Goliath to me. They are usually small or medium. Again, I mean, a Goliath is a medium. I don't understand. I mean, does a Goliath have an extraordinary ability? I guess maybe they do, but, like, I mean, Drow have fucking have supernatural and extraordinary abilities. You know, it feels like it's sort of hit or miss. Whereas monstrous humanoids are similar to humanoids, but with monstrous or animalistic features. That's a gnoll. However, they often have magical abilities as well. Now, a gnoll doesn't. A Medusa does. And that technically is the difference. Gnolls don't have any special abilities beyond just being a gnoll, whereas a Medusa has, you know, petrification, shit like that, and that is what the difference generally comes down to. Because the rest of it is kind of the same. Oh, they get dark vision, but, like, so do some humanoids, so that doesn't really tell you anything. So it basically comes down to whether they have magical abilities. But like I just said, the Drow have spell-like abilities. You know, it's a bit weird. Gnolls do not have superhuman stink, I don't think. They don't have stench as an stench is an extraordinary ability anyway, not magical, but they don't have stench, do they? Special qualities? No, just dark vision. Yeah, they don't have anything special. Which is precisely why they're not. Yeah, you're thinking of troglodytes. Yeah, absolutely. But that's why gnolls are a humanoid, even though they're clearly a monstrous humanoid, because it all boils down to you kind of have to look like a gnoll and also be magical, to some degree. You know. And that's what it is. I'm going to check now if troglodytes do in fact fall into the category of. I'm pretty sure they are monstrous humanoids, but just in case. Troglodyte. Yeah. Nope. Troglodytes are medium humanoid reptilian. But then again, stench is extraordinary, so it's not magical. So I guess that makes sense. We're learning. So it really is that case of, like, if you have a magical ability and you're ugly as fuck, you're monstrous. Although I'm now looking at the Goliath, because what is a Goliath's magical ability? Because I don't think it fucking has one. They're not in the SRD, so I've got to go into Arkelseef. However you're meant to pronounce that shit. What do they have that makes them monstrous? They have powerful build, but that's extraordinary. They have mountain movement, which I'm pretty sure is also extraordinary. Acclimated, which I'm pretty sure is extraordinary. There's nothing in there. They should not be monstrous humanoids. Why are Goliaths? They are just humanoids. I kind of hate it. It's one of the few things that really stands out as being like ostensibly wrong. And it seems to, the only reason it seems to be that is because if you made them large, they couldn't be a humanoid. But then they kept them medium anyway. They should be medium-sized giants. I could see that, because ogres are giants, right? Giants are specifically not humanoids when it comes to spells, which is also a kind of dumb. I hate that whole person doesn't work on a giant. It's like giant's a fucking person. Look at it. But again, there's specific criteria to be considered a giant, right? So a giant is a humanoid-shaped creature, but not a humanoid, of great strength, usually of at least a large size, usually. So a Goliath could easily be a medium giant. There's no reason for it. And the only special trait they have is low light vision, which a Goliath doesn't have. So, give a Goliath a low light vision, and it's a medium giant, right? Problem solved. Problem absolutely solved. Okay. But if weird typing annoys you, go through the 5e books, and you'll find it's even more annoying. At least the stuff here generally makes sense. Like the Goliath, I think, doesn't. But like with the Null, it might not make sense on the surface. But if you trace that back, you can see why they're not a monstrous humanoid on the basis of they simply don't meet the criteria. And this was the same thing with we were talking about the Phoenix the other day, right? And the fire subtype. Because you were like, why is it not a fire subtype, right? So a creature with the fire subtype has immunity to fire and vulnerability to cold, right? And that is basically the reason why the Phoenix doesn't have the fire subtype, because the Phoenix isn't immune to fire because it literally dies in fire and then is reborn, right? It's like it's weird, but there you go. Just because it's fire themed does not mean it's fire typed. And you will often find that something that is fire typed, I don't know if this is, I mean, you can get some dragons that are fire typed as well, so I guess it doesn't perfectly hold up, but dragons are special. But generally, fire typed creatures will either come from the plane of fire or come from an outer plane where fire is generally prevalent, like a hellhound. It's not always true, but it holds up quite well. The fire has to be intrinsic somehow. And like a Phoenix doesn't necessarily generate its own fire. It's not like it breathes fire. Like a dragon that breathes fire has the fire type because that fire is created within inside it. So it's immune to, it has to be immune to the fire, otherwise it would kill itself when it breathes its fire. So it kind of like, you can see how that all comes together. Plus dragons are like, arguably the root of all sorcery and all this jazz. So there's previous there. Whereas the Phoenix is just associated with fire because it burns. At the end, you put in FOE and assumed fire. Yeah, I mean, that is unfortunate. It turns out 2 specifically Phoenix-derived creatures from a later source book are fire. So that's interesting, because the standard Phoenix in the MM2 doesn't have a revision in any of the books I have. And I have a lot of books. And it's weird that they never revised it. What books do you know that the Phoenix-derived creatures appear in? Which creatures are we talking about? Five years like the vibe-coded cousin of 3E. Man, 5e, they basically took the good ideas from Pathfinder and then shat on them. If you want to play good 5e, just play Pathfinder. You picked the was it the Polark or something? Let me get the database up and see if I can find it. The Folark from the MM3, monstrous humanoid, fire. Oh, and the Fuera from the MM3, magical beast, fire. So page 122, page 121. Let me grab the MM3. Oh, let's have a little look at these entries here. So, the Folark, the descendants of the legendary Phoenix. Interesting. They speak Ignan, which is a good point for their fire typing. Gives them links essentially to the plane of fire, which suggests they could be made of elemental fire to some degree. Oh, in fact, that's where they live. As a result, Folarches typically don't have their own society. The rumors of Folarch cities on the elemental plane of fire circulate among the Phoenix kin. So, I mean, arguably, it's a dual nature, right? They're part Phoenix, but they're also part fire elemental, right? So they literally have links to the plane, which is exactly what I was saying. And the Fuera is basically the bird form. There's not a lot of information about those, but that's it. The Fuera is basically an attempt to remake the Phoenix, I guess, because it literally has rise from the ashes as a supernatural ability. But it specifically generates its own heat and has a fire breath weapon. Okay. Now let me get the actual Phoenix entry from the MM2. Hold on. Let's see what the evidence tells us about Phoenix. PPP, plain touched Phoenix. Yeah, so it doesn't generate fire as a weapon. There's nothing that indicates it should be immune to fire. What it does have is a shriek attack, which is perfectly normal. Some spell-like abilities, perfectly normal. A defensive aura that gives it a defensive deflection bonus to armor class, perfectly normal. And then it has immolation as a supernatural ability, which is when it knows that death is near, Phoenix immolates itself as a full round action. So it's literally the fire kills it. So that it can resurrect. This action kills the original Phoenix and produces a new one, not the same Phoenix, fully grown and unharmed from the ashes. That is why the phoenix isn't fire type, because if it was fire type, it would be immune to its own immolation and couldn't do this. So that is why. It does feel a lot like the Foera's attempt to make a phoenix that is more like what people want a phoenix to be, rather than more like what a phoenix was. If that makes sense. You know, you take it. One is more. You know, the phoenix as presented is more like the traditional fairy tale mythic phoenix, whereas the Foera is more like the, you know, monsterified video game version of a phoenix. That's what you're dealing with there. But again, like I say, the beautiful thing about 3.5e is you can look at this and you can see why it makes sense. You can see why someone thought, oh, this won't be fire type, because that won't make sense. And once you know these things, Orange, this is the clever part. As you learn this shit, you'll become really good at Beholdle. It's these little bits of knowledge that will make you great at this game. And at D&D in general. You'll be a better DM if you know this sort of stuff, you know. Like knowing little things that like a lot of players just never realize. Like if a monster has an aquatic subtype, it can't breathe on land unless it has the amphibious special ability, in which case it can. Did you know that? The MM2 annoys you. I mean, a lot of the MM2 stuff has been revised. You know, you can find MM2 stuff in other books, which is the great thing about the database. Like if you Google, I don't know why I use the word Google there, but if you look up a monster in the database and it's from the MM2, chances are you'll also see an entry saying, in brackets, revision in whichever book has the revision. Because a lot of this stuff did get revised sooner or later. And same for, like, you know, the early Faerun books, the FRCS, MOF. You'll see a few of that shit getting revised. Manual of the Plains got a lot of its creatures revised in later books. The Sahuagin. So the Sahuagin, are they aquatic? I know they sort of live in an aquatic environment. They might be amphibious. Let's have a look. They are aquatic, and are they amphibious? Special qualities: blind sense, dark vision, freshwater sensitivity, speak with shots, water dependent. No, so they can't breathe on land. They can hold their breath just like any creature can. Water dependent extraordinary. Sahuagin can survive out of the water for 1 hour per 2 points of con. After that, refer to drowning rules. There you go. So any DM who's letting you wander around on the surface as a Sahuagin hasn't done their job properly. So there you go. Fishmen. And there's a lot of different fishmen out there. Some of them can breathe on the surface, some of them can't. It's fun, isn't it? It's fun actually learning about all the monsters. That's my favorite thing about this. It's just like all the learning that can be done. You know? It's part of what I love about D&D and 3rd edition. And they were reasonably good at sticking to these rules. Yeah, you guess your Eberron Noir character should have been dead. Were you playing a Sahuagin on the surface? Brilliant. It was a setting where it was raining non-stop everywhere. That's like being a creature that needs to breathe air, and it's like, well, it's okay, I'm in the void of space, but occasionally someone blows near me. Occasionally there's a draft. Oh man, what a blast! What a blast! So the real hope here is that I can get that 3 streak tomorrow. I don't want to be the last one to hit the 3 streak. That'll be embarrassing. I'd probably jinx myself just by saying that. But hopefully tomorrow I will join the elusive rank of the Beholdle pros. The special VIP club that will contain just you and me. He was taking the perspective like dolphins that just need to stay wet. I mean, at the end of the day, like if you D&D, you can use an element of hand wavium for anything you want. It's that's part of the fun of the game, right? It's like you want to play a fishman on the surface, sure, we can do that. But at least as long as you know that you're hand waving it, that's the thing. It's knowing that's the battle, isn't it? It's being aware that, like, okay, sure, the fishman shouldn't be able to breathe on water, but I'll allow it. It's like knowing that tomato is a fruit and yet using it like a vegetable. It's like you should know that tomato is a fruit. You should also know that you don't have to treat it like one. There's also the DM's custom setting. Exactly. He can do what he wants. He can decide you have the amphibious subtype if he wants. Sure. It's not, if he wants to give you lungs, let you have lungs. I mean, the thing is, if you know and you don't want to hand wave it either, you can resolve this in many other ways. This is D&D. There's an amulet of water breathing, so there's an amulet of air breathing. Right? It's not hard. Job done. I just feel like it's important to know. And then when you know, you can work about breaking the rules. Right, I'm going to bail there, boys. I'm going to go do a little bit of adulting, make some food. I'll be back around 6 p.m. If it's just me and Erks, we're probably playing Hunt. If Pell's around, anyone's guess. But I don't think he's going to be around, so we'll probably be playing some Hunt Showdown and getting some quests done. Thanks for joining. Thanks for lurking. I appreciate it. It's been a blast. I'll see you guys later on. Bye.